Hi, this is Janet. This is part 1 of 3 videos on decimals. So in this one we just looked at the background of decimals, understanding them a bit better. In the second video we will add and subtract them, and in the third video we will multiply and divide it. So it basically goes from easy to hard. Okay, let's go and work on the understanding of decimal numbers, what it is. So first of all, you can just look at this and go and write down the figures here. So 3.5, where would the 3 go? Under the thousands, hundreds, tens, units. It will be a unit. The 3 goes under the units, and then it's my point, and then the 5 goes under the tens, which really means it's 3, and it is this after the decimal point is my fraction, but that is 5/10. It's that 5/10, okay? Okay, you quickly do the rest. Pause the video to do that. Now we're moving to the answers. There's your answers. Please pause the video and check them. Okay, to the next page now. Just the other way around. Can you write down the numbers in words? Okay, pause the video to do that. We move on to the answers. Now just quickly note here, there's different ways to say this. You can say it's 7.05, it can be 7.05, or it can be 7.05. So all of them will be correct. Okay, pause the video to check. Moving on, and now we're going to order decimal numbers. So we say order the following decimal numbers, start with largest by filling in the table first. So I give you a grid. In my workbook I've made grids for you to practice this, and then later you can do it without grids. Okay, compare using the first column on the left and pick out the highest in order. Okay, let's quickly fill in this table. Now if you want to do this on your own first, pause the video now and do this. And now I will do this with you. So it's 2.9, it is 0.901, 0.83, 1.801, 2.102. Now we are looking for the largest. In other words, go down your first column and look for the highest. Now we've got a 2 and a 2, they are the highest. In other words, they win, the other 3 lose. Now let's look in the next column. There's a 9 and there's a 1. If we only compare these two, in other words, this one won. So this is number 1. And we're done with that one. So we can write it in order there, but let's number it first and then we write the order later. Okay, so this one will obviously be second, because it's the highest one left in the first column. Now, what is the highest one after that one? That one's done. It's the 1. A 1 is bigger than a 0. In other words, this one is the third one, and it doesn't matter what's after, the 1 is greater. Okay, now we only have 2 left, a 0 and a 0. In other words, we have to go to the next column. There's a 9 and a 8, and 9 is bigger, so that one won. So that is going to be my number 4, and then this one is number 5. It is the smallest one. So now in a exam or a test you will have to write it now in order, which will be 2.9, 2.102, and then 1.801, and then 0.901, and then 0.83. Okay, pause the video and you try to do the next one. Now we're moving to the answers. And there you go, there's your answers, please check. Now in my workbook I have a few of these grids for you to practice, and that will help you to then eventually do it without the grid. Okay, so if you would like to, please download the workbook by following the link at the bottom of the video. Okay, if you've paused the video and checked that, please let's go to the next page then. Change a fraction into a decimal. Okay, so this helps us to understand. Can you see that there is no whole number there? It's basically a zero there. You can see an invisible zero there. It is 0.5. Yeah, because that is my decimal. Is the 0.5 with the tens. That 5 is tenths. So it needs to be a 10 at the bottom. So what do you think this one would be? 0.6, yes. Okay, you've got it. Now pause the video and you try to do the rest. Okay, let's just check. What do you think that one will be? There is a whole number of 2. 2.2. Okay. Now what do you think this would be? 5.64, yeah? And so on. Now here we have a problem because it's 11/20. And we need it to be a 10 at the bottom or 100 at the bottom. So we need to do equivalent fractions. If we think of 11/20, it's going to be easier to make it 100. If you think of the fractions, when we changed a fraction to a percentage, we did this. We said it's equivalent fractions. How do we get from 20 to 100? We times by 5. In other words, times by 5. 11 times 5 is 55. In other words, that is going to be 55 over 100, which is 0.55. Okay? Okay, pause the video and you finish the rest of that. Let's move to the answers, and there you go, there's your answers. Please pause the video and check it. So note here, 7/25, we changed that to 100 at the bottom first, and then we can write it in decimal form. So remember, your decimal is tenths and then hundreds and so on. And your whole number is before the point. If there is not a whole number, it's 0 point. Okay, pause the video and check. We move on. Now we're just going to look at our number line. So if we have 0 there and we have 1 there, it would be 0.1, 0.2. What's missing there? I know you know what it is. 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? So it's just the basics in order. That should not be a problem. Between 2 and... Look, there's whole number 2, there's whole number 4. So what's between 2 and 4 is 3. So that's a good way to always work. When you work with these number lines with the missing numbers, you can think, what is in the middle of 2 and 4? It's the middle one that's missing, it's 3, and so on. And here you can think, what is in the middle of 2 and 3? It's 2.5, yeah? And so on. Okay? Pause the video and see if you can do the rest. We are moving now to the answers. In my workbook there's also a lot more of this for you to practice. Please pause the video and check your answers. Now rounding. How do you round? I've got all of the roundings here to decimal places and others, so there's lots of practice also in the workbook. Decide which is the last digit to keep. So that's very important. That's basically what helps you. I like to draw a line. I'll show you. Leave it the same if the next digit to the right is less than 5. We call it rounding down. Increase it by 1 if the next digit is 5 or more, rounding up. Okay, round to the nearest unit. So let's draw a line there because we're going to think we don't want the point and whatever follows after that. So draw your line there. Look at the 3. Is the 3 5 or more? No, it isn't. So that 5 will stay a 5. Now look at the 7. Is the 7 5 or more? Yes, it is more than 5. In other words, that 8 will become 1 more. It will become a 9. Yeah, you try that one. Draw your line there. Round to the nearest 10. In other words, you need to think. It's helpful to draw your line there, but you must remember that you cannot throw away that 1. It needs to change to a 0. So if you round to the nearest 10, your numbers will end in a 0 basically. You will see that 1 0 there. Is the 1 less than 5? Yes, it is. So that means the 2 will stay the same. So 21 will become 20. Now draw your line there. Is the 7 more than 5? Yes, it is. So that 2 will become a 3. So your 27 will become 30. Always think here about money. If I need to pay you £27 and I give you 30, you'll be happy. But if I would give you £3, would you be happy? If I had to give you 27, no, you won't. So think of money here. Because I've seen people make very serious mistakes here by changing the value radically, and that is not how it should be. You should only change it a little bit by rounding it, making it a nicer number to work with, really. So rounding to the nearest 100, we're going to think we will need 2 zeros. Okay, and then we can draw our line there to help us. There is a 0, really, an invisible 0. Because that's a 5, that will become 1 more. 1 more than 0 is 1, so it will become 100. Okay, think of this number, draw your line there. The last will be 2 zeros. Well, the 4, now don't look at the 9. It doesn't matter what number that is in the units. We only look at the 4. Is the 4 more or less than 5? It is less than 5. In other words, this 5 before the line will stay the same. So 1500. Okay, do you want to try the rest? Rounding to decimal places. Now in this case we draw the line there because we only want 1 number after the point, so we can think of throwing away that 3. That will disappear because we don't need it anymore. Now, because it's less than 5, that number before the line will stay the same. In other words, 21.2. Draw your line there. Do you want to try this first? Pause the video. Because it's a 9, it makes the one before the line 1 more. So it will become 0.1. And remember that 9 change into a 0. We don't want to see that 0. Because we say round to 1 decimal place. We only want 1 number after the point. When we round to 2 decimal places, we only want to see 2 numbers after the point. In other words, draw your line there. After the line there's a 2, which will keep the 8 the same. So 44.28. You round to 2 decimal places, so you only want to see 2 numbers after the point. Round to 3 decimal places. Decide which is the last digit you want to keep. We want to keep 3 numbers after the point, so draw your line there before I throw away that 3. Or you can think it changed to a 0 as it did with whole numbers. Will the 3 make the 1, whatever number it is before the line, will it make that 1 more? No, it won't. So it will stay 8.344. Okay, pause the video, you do the rest, make sure you understand it. We're moving to the answers. There's your answers, you can check it now. Pause the video to check. Okay, and we're moving on. Now, I've seen a lot of problems with this, really, with students who don't understand decimal numbers, which is why I've made these sheets specifically for those students to understand it better. Now, what you need to think is again about money is the easiest thing because everyone can work with money. £2 is 2.00 can be written, but can you see that there is an invisible point 0? We don't have to write it. It is still £2, but that value is still £2. That value is still £30, no matter if there's a point 0 or not. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now I want you to pause the video now and to look at this and see if you can write down the numbers that is the same as 5. Look here and see which numbers is the same as 5. Okay, write down the numbers the same as 0.5 and the numbers that's the same as 50. Okay, pause the video and you try that. Same as 5. There is an invisible point after the 5. Don't forget there's an invisible point. We never write it, but there's an invisible point. Now look at this one. There can't be an invisible point because there's already a point. But you can add as many zeros as you like there. Yeah? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the value. It's still 0.5. You can add as many zeros as you like there. It doesn't matter. It's still 5. That is in the units. The number just before the point. That 5 is the number just after the point, so it's in the 10, so it stays 0.5. Same with 50. 50 have an invisible point there. It stays 55. 0 in the units, 5 in the tens. And then there could be as many zeros as you like, but it is still 50. Okay, write down a decimal between 1 and 1.1. Pause the video and think about that. How will you do that? Okay, will it help you if I've done this? 1.0 and 1.1. It might still be difficult because think about it, 1.2 will be bigger. Okay, will it help you if I add a 0 there and a 0 there? It usually does help. Because we can just look at this and this, what number is between 0 and 10. It can be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and so on. So it can be 1.01 or 1.02 or 1.03 and so on up to 1.09. Okay, let's just keep it to 2 decimal places for now, because we could say there's a lot more numbers between, but that is sufficient for what we need to do here. Okay, pause the video, try to work out what's between 5 and 5.1. And we're moving to the answers. There you go, there's your answers. So if you did this one, we can think of 5.00 and 5.10. And then it's easy to see that you can write any number between there and there. Okay, this is the end of the video. In the next video I will show you how to add and subtract fractions. And in part 3 I will show you how to times and divide fractions. Very important work. Please download the workbook if you would like to practice more by clicking on the link. Thank you for listening.